Hey guys, welcome to the Damian Blue Show, episode 8. I know it's been a minute since we last did one of these, so I apologize for that. I'm really sorry. Stan Lee passed away in November of last year, and I know I did our tribute episode, but after that, things went dark around here. Stan Lee's death was hard, but then a while after that, in February of this year, my dog Prince passed away, and as anyone that has lost a pet or even a person they love could tell you, it's not easy and it takes time to adjust to them being gone and to figure out what the new normal is. But the time has come to return, so here I am, and I'm excited to announce that this is the debut of a new segment on the Damian Blue Show. The new segment is called the VIP Creative Corner Podcast. This segment will feature me interviewing creative and talented people you've likely heard of, writers, artists, musicians, just to name a few, spending lots of time discussing their craft. It's all about that. So if you have creative aspirations of your own, hopefully this segment will really speak to you. Now, moving forward, I'll spend time with just one guest diving deep into all things creative. But for this, the inaugural edition of the VIP Creative Corner podcast, I wanted to have it jam-packed with guests, so you guys get double the trouble. First, you'll hear me talk to the well-known comic book writer Chris Claremont. He is of course well known for his work on Uncanny X-Men. He's written that longer than any other writer. He co-created the characters Rogue, Psylocke, Kitty Pryde, Jubilee, Mr. Sinister, Gambit, and the list goes on, but those are just a few. He also scripted the well-known storylines for X-Men, Days of Future Past, and the Phoenix Saga. Even if you don't read comics, the basis of what he wrote was turned into films, so you could go watch those. He's also known for giving my favorite villain of all time, Magneto, a very fascinating history. Even though he didn't create him, he gave him this rich history that he didn't have before, and he revamped him to be the character that we all know today. So I'll be talking to him specifically about what it takes to create a compelling bad guy, because that was the one thing I really wanted to talk to him about, so you'll get to hear that. If that wasn't enough, you'll next hear me talk to the legendary, and I mean legendary, comic book writer Nick Spencer. He's known for writing creator-owned stuff for Image Comics, such as Morning Glories and Thief of Thieves. He's also well known for doing lots of amazing stuff for Marvel, including an incredible run on Captain America a few years ago, and now in 2019 he's currently writing The Amazing Spider-Man, which we're gonna talk about that. But you'll really get to hear me pick his brain about his creative process and what comics inspire him and his thoughts on the Spider-Man films. Lastly, if you like the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/influencefilms. I've got lots of great projects and content coming. So let's waste no time though. Please welcome Chris Claremont and later Nick Spencer right here to the VIP Creative Corner. I'm trying to write a villain for a novel because I've never wrote one before, and Magneto's always tops in my book, and it's because of what you did. So, what advice would you give for writing a villain, and also as it relates to maybe somebody like Magneto?
Basically, you want to decide, is your villain just a cliche badass, or is he someone who is basically a person a decent person who's made a wrong turn. Magneto is a decent person shaped by his history who's made a series of wrong turns. But it's the same question you'd ask as to what makes a hero tick. Who is he? Why does he do the things he or she does? What has led them to that path? Is it like the Joker? Are they simply a psychotic badass? Are they like Mystique, who's doing it for monetary gain? Is it like Mr. Sinister, who is a seriously psychotic badass? Or is it Magneto, who's trying to do good? It's just the means he is utilizing to do good are defined by everyone else as being a villain. And then you figure out who they are as a person, what their character is, why they do the things they do, and what actions are they taking that will bring them into conflict with your hero or heroine, whichever.
It seems like with somebody like Magneto, like he had tons of opportunities to do the right thing, but didn't.
Well, no, I mean, my goal as a writer was to turn him into a positive person. I wanted him to become headmaster of the school. He would always be tempted by the rational need to step over the line and do something wrong for a good purpose, and then the challenge of the New Mutants would be to pull him back, because if he did that something like that, he would drag them along with him, because there would be a point where he couldn't come back from that. It would just be one bad thing would lead to another, and he'd have a rationalization, a perfectly sensible rationalization for each step, but it would lead him to disaster. So they weren't going to let him take the first step at all, which I thought was a much more interesting dynamic than Charlie, who was just boringly good. But Marvel wanted him as a traditional villain, which is why I killed my version off, metaphorically, in X-Men 3. So you have to decide, is he a good guy doing bad things for a good goal, a good guy who's taken a wrong path and doesn't want to turn back, or finds it too challenging to turn back, or is he a badass? And then why is he a badass? I'm using he because it's just easier to speak that way. Or is he a psycho? And then why is he? And the rest is up to you.
So when you were doing Spider-Man, can I ask you, I once got to talk to Chris Claremont, and he said that, when he wrote Magneto, the one word that came to his mind was, conflicted. So when you're doing, Spider-Man, what was going through your mind, and, can you just tell me about that? Because...
I don't know. I mean, that's tough. He's always been my favorite character, so I had a lot of years of thinking about what I'd do if I wrote the book. So, I went back and kind of reread everything, a lot of stuff I'd never read before, and tried to get a really comprehensive view of the character. And I just kind of wanted to try to get the character back to the stuff that I thought was foundational, the stuff that I think, the stuff that I kind of thought was kind of quintessential in Spidey. So a lot of what we're doing is really about that, just trying to kind of reconnect him with the stuff that I think, because he's had a number of stories over the last decade or so where it's he's really pulled really far from his status quo.
Oh, yeah.
And so I kind of just wanted to get in and kind of greatest hits it a little bit and, kind of remind people this is kind of what a Spider-Man comic is and stuff like that. So that was the biggest thing in my head when I was getting going on it, was just kind of how do we kind of reconnect the character to things that people know and love about the character. What are kind of the foundational elements that should be represented, and then there will be something else that pulls him away from that. But that's kind of the fun of these characters a lot of times, is you take them really far out and then you kind of reground them in the stuff that's classic about them. So.
And I don't know your writing process. Do you have an ending point where this is where I want the character to get to in mind? Or?
Yeah, whenever I do a book, I kind of sit down and think about what I'd like to do over the course of the run, and where I'd like to see it end up, and the big beats along the way. And I do a lot of long-term planning. So
even when you did Captain America,
when I did Cap, I had the whole thing mapped out before the first issue came out. So yeah, I like to do it that way. I like to makes the early part hard, but then it makes everything after that easy. So.
Do you outline a lot too then?
Yeah. So, and you try to leave room. You're figuring stuff out as you go still, and stuff that you had outlined when you're writing it. You're like, oh no, that doesn't quite work. So you change stuff, but generally speaking, I stick pretty close to whatever my initial plan is.
What advice would you give somebody that was trying to write just in general?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing about writing is just to do it. It's just to kind of get past the paralysis. There's so many people that want to be writers and they probably have good ideas and can do good stuff, but they can't kind of get past the conceptual part and into the actual typing and finishing things. I think the biggest difference between professional writers and amateur writers, if you call it that, but the biggest difference is just that professional finish things, that they actually kind of do the work, whereas the fear of it or the frustration of it, seems to be the part that dissuades a lot of people. So finish the things you start and do a lot of it. It's one of those things where it only gets better if you do it more. It's just like any skill you have to practice. So it's kind of simple advice, but it's kind of the best ones, I think.
That's so cool.
Oh, thanks, man. So you got to meet Claremont, huh?
Yeah, it was really great.
That's pretty cool.
So can I ask you, of the Spider-Man movies, who's your favorite actor who plays Spider-Man? And you say he's your favorite character, so I'm just curious on what you think of the movies in general.
I mean, I love the last one. I thought the Homecoming was really good. And it's probably the closest to how I see it. I love the Tobey Maguire movies a lot. But I love the movies. I don't know that I love that Spider-Man, if that makes sense. The movies themselves are amazing. The Spidey in those movies is the Maguire version is a little. I don't know what it is. He's a little hard for me to connect to, but I love the movies, especially the second one. And the Garfield movies, I didn't hate as much as some people did.
Yeah.
I liked them okay. The second one people were really hard on, and I was like, it wasn't my favorite, but it was okay. But yeah, probably Homecoming is I think the best of the bunch. That's probably like I said, the closest to how I would do it. I was really impressed with the video game version, the game that they just did. I thought that was a really good take.
The new one, the PS1. That was. I thought they did a really impressive job. So they've all had their pluses. I named my cat Miles after because he's my second cat. What do you think of that character in general?
I love Miles. I think the new volume with him is going to be really great. And I want to try to get him in the book eventually, but I want to make sure that it's the right time. Another kind of big thing that I had back when I started was there are a lot of Spider characters because there's Miles,
universe and everything,
Spider-Gwen, and because of the Spider-Verse stuff and all that. There's a lot of them, and I kind of wanted to give that a little bit of a breather. At some point I want to come back to it, but sometimes when he's surrounded by other Spider characters, it's like he starts losing a little bit of what makes him special. So I want to find a way to kind of bring him back into it. But I would like to get Miles in there at some point. So I'm sure that'll happen a little bit down the road. Yeah.
What do you like to read? Do you read comics right now?
I do. What am I reading that I'm really liking right now? I like Al Ewing's. I like Immortal Hulk a lot. It's really good. It's kind of a horror comic, and it's kind of interesting.
I'll send everybody out.
I like Jason's Avengers a lot.
Yeah.
It's really well done.
I've got 10 days to put them in.
I liked Mr. Miracle.
And then I'll keep you up to date. So you'll get something free.
There's a lot of good stuff out there right now. I'm trying to think of like any good. I like Baby Teeth.
Okay.
Kate's book. I like that quite a bit. So there's a lot. There's a lot of good stuff out there right now. It's definitely a good time.
Do you have like your all-time like favorite comic in your mind?
Well, my all-time favorite is Invisibles. I'm a big Grant Morrison fan, so so probably Invisibles is my favorite. I love Sandman a lot too. So I'm a big Vertigo guy, so those and Preacher, those are big books for me.
Batman R.I.P. Like Batman and Spider-Man are tied for me. Like is like some of my favorite characters.
Did
you like any Grant Morrison?
Grant's Batman run is my favorite superhero run. It's just so good, start to finish. It's the Batman R.I.P. stuff with Q-Root and stuff. It's really incredible. Yeah, it's my favorite. Yeah. Really good stuff.
I'm just thinking it's so cool you're here. And
thanks, man. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Like this is like the when I heard that you were going to be on Amazing Spider-Man, I was like, oh my god, that's awesome.
Hey, thank you.
Because I try to look out for. I'm not like a reader that reads for like the art as much as like the writing. And
sure.
After reading your Captain America run, I was like, oh my god, that's awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah. This has been a lot of fun.
So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Damian Blue Show. Special thanks again to Chris Claremont and Nick Spencer for being a part of it. I hope this gives you just a little taste of what's to come on future segments of the VIP Creative Corner. And we'll see you next time right here, youtube.com/influencefilms. Subscribe if you haven't so you don't miss the next one. And till next time, guys.